I'm starting this session. Welcome to both Julie and Barbara. And for those who are watching this later, this is a session I'm calling Network Empowerment. And the reason I decided to do this is I realized that all of the agencies and departments of government that I wished to be more active and proactive, especially for the homeless situation. We're moving slowly, and that what they needed were human beings that felt empowered. And this is an experiment. We're going to ask some pretty provocative questions, see if something creative comes up. And, um, we'll hopefully learn something. I'm here to learn. And so I'm going to kind of do a round robin. I'll just call on people or they can raise their hand. And we're mostly trying to talk about crisis. We all know we're in a crisis, multiple crises piling on top of each other. And we all get triggered and stirred up and challenged in some way to respond to these multiple crises. And I feel like it's my belief that if we look at our own personal history in the past, we can find sources of strength that we may have forgotten about. So starting with that, these are the questions, and I'll put these in the chat windows so that you can refer to them, but I'll read them off. Does the word refugee apply to you yet? Do you seek refuge from the storm of events? In what ways has your life been disrupted? And I wrote that, right after the evacuations for the fire. But there are other ways lives have been disrupted. When have you had to evacuate or abandon a situation and rebuild your life? Who or what has supported, guided, or empowered you to rebuild? And what situation would you voluntarily abandon or escape today? Where would you like to go? So whatever that brings up for you is fair game to start the conversation. And who would like to start? Paste in that.
Well, I could say that thank you for bringing up the suggestions. Oh, and thank you for posting the questions. I came to Eugene in 2010 specifically because I was living somewhere where I was extremely unhappy, and a lot of it had to do with the environment. And it's often been said you can't do a geographical because your problems will follow you. You will recreate the same situation no matter where you go. But I had the environmental issues that are no longer concerning me. So I am happy to be here. But I did bring, some of the same kind of problems that I'd previously encountered, but I have felt safe here. It was everything that I wanted to be, and then a lot of things I didn't want it to be. But Eugene has been a refuge for me, and I planned I planned on moving here for, I think it took me like 3 years to save the money and do everything right, and so that's my refugee experience. And then to bring it more topically, like what's happening right now is I have had to create a refuge in my own home from too much exposure to the news. I have had to discipline myself that if I watch an hour of, horror type stuff, which can be anything from environmental to the presidential race to, I mean, there's any number of horrific situations going on, the hurricanes, the attempted kidnapping, just on and on. And but I make a deal with myself that I also have to have positive input because it was getting to be a bit much, because it snowballed. Every day when I woke up, I want to listen to the news, but every day it was just more and more. But anyway, that was what I put in place to help me with that. And I like to pass the ball and hear about other experiences too. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Well, hearing you talk about being a refugee from the news brings up my recent experience of becoming a refugee from Facebook. I've been spending way too much time. I'm embarrassed, but I have to admit that some days I would be on Facebook for up to 5 hours. But it was almost never less than 3 hours. And it was just starting to worry me. And eventually, I just got really uneasy and decided that this was toxic to me personally, that it was bringing out things that I would say and do that, well, for one thing, it made me feel self-righteous, and I don't want to feel self-righteous. And then all of the posts that I was reading from other people were a lot of complaints and anger and sometimes vitriol, and always news about what's bad, what's wrong with the world. And it was a bummer. So I've been off Facebook now for 10 days, 11 days.
Wow.
And I have relaxed and taken a look at myself, taken my own inventory, and shared with other people about it and written about it. And I have a sense of freedom. I've been out exploring other ways to be connected and learn things. And I've even, like you, Julie, limited my input of mainstream news. I get a morning newsletter from The Guardian, and I read it, and I don't go to read the articles. I just read the headlines. And I say, yep, the world is still out there, and it's still in a mess. Occasionally, there's some good news. I'll go read those. So, there's this other question. I sort of referred to it, that one of the ways that supports my change, my seeking refuge, is by talking to other people and writing about it, and thinking things through out loud. That's what a lot of what happens when I'm sharing with other people, is I hear myself talk. And when I hear myself talk, it becomes very obvious if I start going in a loop. And so I have to organize my thinking and follow through to a conclusion. And that forces me to make sense. And so I hear things I need to hear coming out of my own mouth. And that's one of the things I like about Zoom calls. So I'm going to stop there.
Barbara's muted.
Yes.
Barbara's still muted. There we go.
Okay. So I'll take up the baton next.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, I'm one of those people also who thinks better out loud. And if there is no one to talk with and share, then I write either emails or notes or whatever, because that does exactly what you said. It puts what's inside external so I can see it, hear it, and helps me clarify my own thinking. I'm just very aware that most people are really suffering, and different people are having different reactions that usually are not that healthy or helpful to them. So I've been doing a lot of nurturing and coaching other people until a couple months ago, I realized that even though I'm someone who responds to changes more quickly than other people and am a focused problem solver, that all these various, dual pandemic stresses were stressing me as well. So I realized I needed to start increasing my own self care so that I could be more healthy. So I was doing two things, like mentioned. I only basically watch CNN and only on certain days at certain times. And I turn off the volume when certain people are talking. For example, the person who sleeps in the White House, because I just don't want to have that come close to me. And also, I have revised a self care assignment called a pleasers list, and I'm open to sending it to both of you. Um, so I have my list in my memory bank and printed out so that I'm reminding myself to do things that I benefit from. Like, for example, reading German out loud, German poetry out loud. Only I benefit from that. Nobody else benefits from it, but it's something that feeds me. Um, 2 weekends ago, I participated in 4 different worship services on a Sunday. One of them was work related, but it really uh, gave me extra strength input, which I could tell for the rest of the week I was doing better, because I started out more full and wasn't challenged or dragged down quite as much. So, and I took my cello out a couple times. So there are some things that it sounds like we're all learning to be able to cope better and be healthier. And I really support that because this is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and it's probably going to go at least in this manner until maybe next summer. So we have to be mindful of that and um, do concrete actions and behaviors that are going to help us individually be stronger and together be strengthened. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Back to you, Julie.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to, thank you guys for some of the things that you talked about, like your Facebook fast there. I didn't intend to do it, but my Facebook usage in the last 6 months has dropped dramatically. Leading up to the pandemic, I was on Facebook usually like between an hour, maybe three tops. Yeah, but I was on there like every day, and it's just gradually come to almost nothing. It could be sometimes I don't check it for days. I've been doing that not on purpose, but when it comes time to check it, I don't want to. And I'll look at the first couple of notifications, and then I'm just like, I don't even want to open up this hornet's nest. I have no idea what kind of rabbit hole I'll get dragged down. I better not do it. It's not the best choice for me right now. And then to speak to what you were saying, Barbara, about the self-care thing, I've actually had to use the words self-care. I need to do better self-care because this is causing me problems that I really don't need in addition to the ones I've already created for myself. I don't need to add extra. So thank you for pointing out those things because I can readily relate.
Yeah, I can tag on to that too. That self-care has become my new song and dance every day. I've started doing yoga, uh,
Nice.
about 3 times a week. It's restorative yoga. It's very relaxing. Um, and I don't have to push myself to do it anymore. I'm doing it because I feel so good afterwards. And I'm discovering how much garden work there needs to be done out there. There's weeds, there's branches that need trimming, there's new things that need to get planted and planted properly with fertilizer and mulch. And I mean, it gave me so much pleasure to put the garlic in the ground this year and to do it in a better way than I'd ever done it before. I was usually pretty superficial, and then this time I took a lot of care with each clove that went into the ground.
Mm.
And I actually measured the distance from the next clove. Things I hadn't done before. And it's true. Self-care increases my ability to be helpful. And I think doing what I'm learning more than anything, I think out of these multiple crises and self-care is that I am not doing this alone. I am part of a large group, a mass, millions of people who are turning towards positive things in their life rather than fighting with the negative things. And that gives me great hope. I've been an optimist for many years now, and I like to reframe what is happening from the dark night of the soul, where nothing works anymore and we're all going to hell in a handbasket, to the things that don't work are coming apart. The empire is coming apart. The economy is coming apart, and our health system is coming apart. And it's all pretty scary stuff because we rely on a lot of inputs from those systems just to keep ourselves alive and comfortable. But behind that, I think, and I've heard other people mention this too, there's the great turning, and we are turning towards beloved community. And I hold that vision and I hold that hope. And I pay attention to any indicator that I see that that movement is growing and accelerating. And, recent events, people were saying that last week of September was like enough news to fill an entire year.
Mm.
Things were just piling one on top of the other. It was like, whoa, that seems to be our new normal. Is they call it an October surprise, and there's going to be a November surprise. Well, okay. Life is being disrupted almost on a daily basis. And so I think it is forcing us into taking time out to take care of ourselves and restabilize ourselves to achieve what I call emotional sobriety, where the urgency and the hysteria tend to get like set aside. It's okay, it's real. There's a lot to be scared of, there's a lot to grieve, and there's a lot that's coming together at the same time. A lot of things are being born. That's just my philosophy. But
Grab something.
yeah, I'm a recovering addict, and the biggest disruption in my life was going into treatment. And the great strength of coming out of treatment was finding groups, mutual support groups, like chosen family, to learn how to communicate again, learn how to be part of something other than my own little tornado.
Wow.
It's a long, long trail, but now I see people, young people, like catching on real quick. They don't have to go through all of this years of work that I had to do. Any more thoughts now on?
Yes, you started out with, I didn't realize I hadn't muted myself. You started out with the word crisis.
Yep.
And in English and Greek, the word, and Latin, which are all in the same roots, that the meaning in English and Greek and Latin means, crashing together and prolonged battle or struggle or controversy or opposition, collision. But in Chinese, it has has a meaning that's different. And actually, on this side, which is the character of Wei, that it shows that a character here's like a person at the edge of this precipice. So you can sort of see words in English to describe that are danger, peril, and danger, critically ill, dying, or precipitous. And then this character on this side, which is G, it means crucial point, pivot, chance, critical time. But when you put them side by side like this, it has side by side, it has a different meaning. And it means in this moment in time, there's the opportunity or kairos moment for something to happen, either unto illness and death or a transformation into health and life. So in this moment, this precious moment, it can, go down, or it can be transformed into life. And that's what some of the three of us are talking about. And I guess growing up in a family and in a faith community that focused on nonviolence and not wanting conflict, it took me as an adult to learn that being able to function well in a tense situation and be able to do it in a healthy way. And also that in that moment of time, something fabulous could come out of it. So there's some very interesting things that I'm noticing that's coming out of this time, this dreadful, challenging time. And one is that we're learning how to use other modes of communication better than we had before, like Zoom as an example. And also people are faced with, some people are, but some of us being faced with all sorts of things happening around us that are unhealthy, that we're figuring out to increase our self-care, which is a healthy path anyway. But it's this situation that's sort of gotten our attention. And the more that we all can do better support for oneself and for one another, we're going to learn healthier patterns into the future. So if we can survive through this time, there are many, many things that might be very optimistic in terms of moving in a healthy direction. And being able to share more deeply with people is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that annoyed me the most about Facebook was that it was so superficial, so abbreviated, so compressed, that it didn't have depth.
But I will mention, just sort of as a humorous observation of myself, that I resisted signing up on Facebook for decades. And I just a few months ago actually signed up because I thought I was missing a lot from my two nieces, because they were sharing with one another on Facebook. And I thought, oh no, I'm missing out, boo-hoo. And so I thought, okay, well maybe, because people were trying to reassure me that I could control it. And And so I signed up and only, I don't know what you call it, friended a few people. And so I get mostly photos or a quick poem or something from people. So I actually am not distracted or annoyed, and I'm getting photos from my nieces and nephews, or my two nieces mostly, and so that's very positive for me. But I haven't taught myself how to use it, so I don't know how to initiate putting something on there from me. So I'm just benefiting, gaining uh, communication from other people. So, but it's because I was alerted because of comments that many of you had been sharing earlier that I just didn't even want to go there.
Yeah.
And so had resisted. And so far, so good.
Yay.
But thanks for sharing your experience, because that's prevented me from having a bunch of pain in my life and time used gobbled up.
Yeah, I'm thinking if and when I go back, it will be with a different identity in a much smaller group,
Mm.
and I will just be, yeah, interacting differently. Um, Julie, would you like to say anything about your sense of optimism? Where would you like to go? What's your vision for the future?
Well, having been very pessimistic lately, I'll just try to think of what um I won't talk about what I have been doing. But what you were saying earlier about I'm in recovery too, and then going to the meetings is a way of creating your family so that you're not all focused on yourself. And I'm at that place in my recovery. I liked to go to meetings occasionally, and I took it for granted. I could always, there's a meeting every day, multiple times, could go whenever. And adjusting to the Zoom meetings has been difficult for me, but I recognize that I really need to have those little circles. And so I go through the discomfort of the Zoom meetings because I am optimistic. So this my thought is coming full circle. I'm optimistic that I can make Facebook work for me, using some of the methods you two have already discussed, and um, just be more in charge of my own destiny. I guess it would be better to say, instead of life has been something I've let happen to me, and I need to reassume the reins of control and make life something that I'm making happen for me instead of letting it happen. And thank you, Barbara, for bringing up the crisis opportunity symbol. I needed to be reminded of that. I'd always wanted to get a tattoo of that because that's incredibly meaningful to me, because my life seems like it's a series of those associations. And so I think it's one of the things I also learned in meetings: if you come to a meeting with the intention of taking something out and you listen for it, you'll hear the thing that you're meant to hear. And I've heard multiple things today, so I'm going to have multiple takeaways. And I'm more optimistic than when I was looking for the email that had the Zoom link so I wouldn't be late.
Barbara, you're muted.
A funny little buzzing bother anybody.
It doesn't bother. It's
It's
really,
okay.
Okay, it's
really
okay. So far, so good. Um, Julie, since I met you a while back, and maybe it was pretty much when you moved here, it might have been around 2010, but anyway, it was around Occupy. And that I just rejoice at what you're sharing about your discerning a healthy path that you feel really committed to figure out and discern for yourself and make a plan. So, anyway, go girl.
Yeah. What I've been reminded of is that we always have a choice about how we're going to receive information.
Yeah.
And what we do with it. Are we going to react or are we going to respond? There's a big difference. And I'm hoping more people choose to respond. Um, I'm hoping more people choose authentic, deep connection rather than superficial. And that's kind of my life goal. I mean, that would take care of me if I were surrounded by people who are always talking authentically, vulnerably. And because I've met both of you in person outside of Zoom before the COVID, meeting you on Zoom makes it easier for me to connect through the digital channel. It takes a while to warm up with a bunch of strangers. I've been on calls where there were, 20, 30 people. But the best part of those calls was when they put us randomly into breakout rooms of 3, maximum 4 people, give us 15 minutes to talk about a question. And I get to meet the most amazing people, people from other parts of the world. I mean, yeah, from Africa or just Washington, D.C., and people who had just as much passion and care as I do. I'm not alone. I think that's the greatest thing that we're discovering. So we're getting close to our time to wrap up. This has been really good. I've enjoyed it. Here's a chance for some parting thoughts.
Well, I'm kind of I knew it was a short meeting, but unlike a lot of the Zoom meetings I've gone to, this has been one of the more beneficial and enjoyable ones. I really appreciate what you both brought to this little toddy ta in the middle of the day. It's been, apparently what I needed to do. So I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I would hope that we could do something like this again. I mean, for me, there were plenty of good reminders and, ways for me to reshape my focus and focus on the things that, like you said, that I can respond rather than react to. I think that's another takeaway for me today. So.
Thank you, Julie.
So I put in the chat, I don't know if either of you have yours open or not, but that I am willing to send to you, Julie, my crisis conflict page that has some of the descriptive information, because most people only know the very simplistic view of it, which is not as rich as the deeper linguistic analysis from the Chinese, and also oh, good, happy in Eugene. All right, thanks a lot. And that and also I'll send you both my one-page description of how to construct a pleasers list, and then I have my list of my own ancient list, plus I edited it some during COVID. So you have some ideas. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining in today, and I wish you a rich week.
Well, thank you both. I'll post the link to this video just in the ECAN newsletter. About 50, 40 people actually open that. Mm-hmm. And we might get some feedback. We might not. Thank you very much. See you soon. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you. Nice to see you both again.
Yeah. Bye. Peace be with you.
All right. Enjoy. Bye. Bye.